You mean to tell me these primitives survived nuclear warfare? First observer Zixtal clicked their mandibles in disbelief, compound eyes fixed on the holographic display of Earth. That's not possible. The radiation alone should have not only survived it, second observer Mira interrupted, her crystalline form shimmering with amusement. But they kept right on going. Look at this data stream. They made memes about it. Who makes jokes about nuclear fallout? Humans, apparently. Zixtal's antennae twitched as they scrolled through centuries of historical data. Wait, are they using the residual radiation to make glowing drinks? Nuka-Cola, third observer Talara chimed in, her tentacles rippling in what passed for laughter among the Hydrosians. They turned it into a marketing campaign. There's an entire entertainment franchise built around nuclear apocalypse scenarios. They call it retrofuturism, or something equally absurd. The three alien observers sat in their cloaked vessel, hovering 20,000 feet above what humans called Las Vegas, a city that, by all logical standards, shouldn't exist. It was, after all, built in the middle of a desert, which was precisely why they'd chosen this location for their first close-range observation of humanity. This has to be some sort of cosmic joke, Zixtal muttered, pulling up another data stream. No species purposely builds a major population center in a location actively trying to kill them. The average summer temperature here is, oh, by the void, that's practically cooking temperature. Mira's crystalline structure tinged with the equivalent of a snort. Oh, that's nothing. Wait until you see what they did in Dubai. They built the tallest structure on their planet in another desert, then added ski slopes. Inside buildings. They did what now? Talara's tentacles went still with shock. Ski slopes. In the desert, with artificial snow, because they could. Mira's surface facets sparkled with mirth. The entire species operates on a fundamental principle that roughly translates to, hold my beer and watch this. The observers had been studying Earth for several cycles now, and each new discovery left them more baffled than the last. Their mission was supposed to be simple. Evaluate the survival potential of various sentient species in preparation for the coming galactic upheaval. So far, humans were scoring off the charts in ways that defied both logic and several laws of probability. Speaking of hold my beer, Talara said, manipulating the holographic controls with her tentacles, you need to see this historical footage from something called Florida Man. The projection shifted to show a human wrestling with what appeared to be one of Earth's apex predators, an alligator, while holding a beverage can. Please tell me this is some sort of ceremonial combat ritual, Zixtal pleaded. Nope. Mira's crystal structure chimed with laughter. This is what they do for fun, in Florida specifically. It's like they took all the most reality-defying humans and put them in one peninsula. But why? From what we can gather, Talara explained, it's a combination of high humidity, something called questionable local governance, and a general attitude of consequences are for other people. The three observers watched in horrified fascination as the human in the projection not only survived the encounter, but somehow managed not to spill their drink. This was followed by a montage of similar incidents, each more improbable than the last. Let's review what we know, Zixtal said, trying to maintain some semblance of scientific objectivity. These humans have survived. Multiple near-extinction events, self-inflicted nuclear warfare, regular encounters with apex predators, climate extremes that should be fatal. Their own cooking experiments involving something called ghost peppers, and they've done all this while actively seeking out new ways to challenge death itself. Don't forget space exploration, Mira added helpfully. They started throwing themselves off their planet using controlled explosions before they even had reliable computing systems. Which they now carry in their pockets, Talara noted, and use primarily to watch videos of small felines and argue with strangers. Zixtal's mandibles clicked rapidly, the insectoid equivalent of a stress headache. The Council is never going to believe this report. We need more direct observation data. Actually, Mira's structure pulsed with an idea. I have a suggestion. There's this human tradition called a music festival happening in the desert next week. 3 days of humans deliberately exposing themselves to extreme conditions while engaging in various rituals involving sonic vibrations and mood-altering substances. Perfect! Talara's tentacles waved enthusiastically. We can observe their survival strategies in a controlled setting. 1 week later. This was a terrible idea, Zixtal moaned from inside their environmental suit. Despite their advanced technology, they were covered in something called glitter that their filtration systems couldn't seem to remove. How are they still alive? It's been 3 days without proper shelter. The air is 40% dust, and that sound they call bass is literally reshaping molecular structures. Mira, whose crystalline form was now sporting several unauthorized decorative stickers, couldn't stop chiming with laughter. Look, they're not even trying to avoid the dust storms. They've turned them into some sort of impromptu celebration. Talara, who had somehow ended up with a collection of human accessories called friendship bracelets wrapped around her tentacles, was frantically recording everything. The most fascinating part is their hydration ritual they call water sharing. When resources are scarce, instead of competing, they cooperate and add electrolytes. The council needs to know about this immediately, Zixatal declared, trying and failing to maintain their dignity while a human nearby was attempting something called breakdancing in the dust. These humans, they're not just surviving, they're thriving on chaos itself. Should we tell them about the impending galactic crisis? Mira asked, her structure still vibrating from the last bass drop. They all watched as a human nearby successfully opened a beverage container using only their eye socket. No, Zixtal decided. I think the galaxy isn't ready for humans. Let's classify Earth as extremely likely to survive, and suggest a policy of non-interference, for everyone else's safety. Before Zixtal could object, the music started, and they watched in amazement as thousands of humans began moving in sync, turning the desert itself into a celebration of improbable survival. You know, Mira observed, her crystal structure pulsing with the beat. Maybe that's their true superpower. Not just surviving against all odds, but making it look fun. Put that in the report, Zixtal said, finally giving up on maintaining scientific detachment as a wave of dust and joy swept through the crowd. Classification: Humanity, Masters of Improbable Survival. Additional notes: they'll probably enjoy the apocalypse. And somewhere in the cosmic background, radiation, in frequencies too subtle for human instruments to detect. The universe itself seemed to laugh. Because of course humans would not only survive the impossible, they'd figure out how to dance to it. As the festival reached its crescendo and the observers prepared to depart, they made one final note in their report. Warning to future anthropologists: do not attempt to apply logic to human survival strategies. They don't use it, and it will only give you a headache. The report was filed, the warning was issued, and humanity continued doing what it did best, surviving with style, much to the universe's ongoing bewilderment. Meanwhile, in a secret meeting room deep within the Galactic Council's headquarters, a senior administrator read the report and did something very human. They put their head in their hands and laughed until they cried. Because really, what else can you do when faced with a species that treats survival like an extreme sport and turns every potential extinction event into an opportunity for a party? The humans, blissfully unaware of their audience, continued their desert revelry, accidentally inventing 3 new dance moves and 2 philosophical paradigms before breakfast. Just another day in humanity's ongoing mission to survive in the most extra way possible. Talara's final note in the observation log read simply, "They don't need saving. We might need saving from them." And somewhere in Las Vegas, a human sneezed, looked at the vast desert around them, and said, "You know what this place needs? More neon lights and an indoor volcano." Because of course they did. The observer's ship departed Earth's atmosphere just as someone in Florida was beginning to think, "I wonder if I can teach this alligator to surf." The universe held its breath, but not for long. It had learned that when it comes to humans, it's better to just roll with it. "Emergency Council Session TR-742 is now in session," announced the Galactic Recorder, their mechanical voice echoing through the vast chamber. Topic: the human problem. First observer Zixtal's antennae drooped. They'd been dreading this meeting ever since their team's report went viral across the galactic information networks. Beside them, Mira's crystalline form was unusually dim, while Talara's tentacles were tied in what appeared to be a stress knot. The Grand Counselor, a being of pure energy contained within an ancient environmental suit, flickered in what might have been irritation. "Observers, your report has caused quite the disturbance. Several species have already requested immediate relocation to the opposite side of the galaxy from Earth. The Axithor Collective is demanding we quarantine the entire solar system." "With all due respect," Zixtal began, "that might be wise." "Because of something called TikTok challenges?" the Grand Counselor interrupted. "Ah," Mira chimed in, her structure brightening slightly. "That's actually not the worst. Silence! A different counselor, this one a floating cloud of sentient gas, pulsed with agitation. We've reviewed your subsequent data streams. How do you explain this? A holographic projection appeared in the center of the chamber, showing humans engaging in something called extreme ironing, literally pressing clothes while skydiving, deep-sea diving, or climbing mountains. That's actually one of their tamer hobbies, Talara offered helpfully. Wait until you see what they call parkour. We've seen it. The gas cloud counselor wobbled, along with free solo climbing, wingsuit flying, and something called cheese rolling, which we're still trying to comprehend. The question isn't what they're doing, it's why we shouldn't consider them a threat to galactic stability. Zixtal clicked their mandibles thoughtfully. Honorable Council, during our extended observation period, we've come to a rather startling conclusion. Humans aren't actually trying to destabilize anything, they're just bored easily. The chamber erupted in confused murmuring. Bored? The Grand Counselor's energy form flickered rapidly. They risk death because they're bored? Not exactly, Mira explained, projecting a new set of images. They do it because they can. Look at this historical data. Every time someone tells them something is impossible, they take it as a personal challenge. They created powered flight because someone said it couldn't be done. They reached their moon because another group of humans said they couldn't. They domesticated wolves into creatures called pugs because, well, we're still not sure why they did that. But that's not the most interesting part, Talara added, her tentacles finally unknotting with enthusiasm. Show them the Antarctica data. A new projection appeared, showing a research station in one of Earth's most inhospitable regions. They built this, Zixtal explained. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to know what was there. And once they built it, they decided to stay. They conduct science experiments, grow vegetables in the darkness, and occasionally run marathons in Antarctica for fun. For fun? The gas cloud counselor condensed in confusion. It gets better, Mira chimed in. When the station was running low on medical supplies during a particularly harsh winter season, making airdrops impossible, you know what they did? They organized an airdrop anyway, in complete darkness, in temperature conditions that froze fuel solid. Because someone needed medicine and they decided that the weather being impossible to fly in was, and I quote, merely a suggestion. The council chamber went silent. There's more, Talara said, pulling up another data stream. Remember how we were worried about the approaching space-time anomaly that's threatening this sector of the galaxy? Well, we found some interesting data in their scientific archives. They've already detected it. Impossible! Several counselors shouted at once. Surf, a space-time anomaly? The Grand Counselor's energy form dimmed considerably. Yes, Mira confirmed. And based on our calculations, they might actually figure it out. Their approach to physics is unconventional. They seem to treat universal constants more like universal guidelines. Show them the quantum entanglement experiment, Talara suggested excitedly. Another projection appeared, showing a human laboratory where researchers had apparently succeeded in entangling two particles using equipment that included duct tape and something called a Raspberry Pi. Their engineering principle seems to be, if it looks stupid but works, it isn't stupid, Zixtal explained, and it works with alarming frequency. The council chamber erupted in chaos as various members tried to process this information. The Grand Counselor had to emit a high-frequency pulse to restore order. So, your recommendation is? The Grand Counselor prompted. Let them handle the space-time anomaly, all three observers said in unison. Are you insane? The gas cloud counselor wobbled violently. No, Zixtal replied firmly. We're practical. Look at their history. Every extinction-level event they've faced has somehow made them stronger. Their response to almost dying seems to be to come back more resilient, and with better memes. Besides, Mira added, her crystal structure pulsing with amusement, they're already working on it. We found these research papers from something called CERN, where they're basically poking the fabric of reality to see what happens. And their backup plan? A previously silent counselor asked. Talara's tentacles waved in what might have been embarrassment. They don't really do backup plans. Their usual approach is to try something, and if it doesn't work, try something else until something does. They call it winging it. They're going to wing it with a space-time anomaly? The Grand Counselor's energy form flickered in what might have been a cosmic facepalm. Based on their track record, Zixtal said, projecting a final set of data. That's when they're at their most effective. We've calculated a 73% chance they'll not only survive but somehow turn it into an extreme sport. The council chamber fell into stunned silence again. Very well, the Grand Counselor finally said. Motion to classify Earth as a protected observation zone and let them deal with the anomaly. All in favor? The vote was unanimous, though several counselors immediately filed for stress leave. As the observers left the chamber, Talara's communication device pinged. Oh, interesting. Apparently someone in a place called California just filed a patent for something called a quantum surfboard. Zixtal's antennae twitched. Should we warn the council? Let's just let that one play out, Mira suggested, her crystal structure chiming with laughter. Meanwhile, back on Earth, in a cluttered garage in Silicon Valley, a young engineer looked at their recently approved patent and said, "Hey, what if we added rockets?" The universe wisely decided not to answer, but it did start taking notes. The observer's ship, now heading back to Earth for additional research, and definitely not because they'd become addicted to something called street food, picked up a transmission from the surface. "Dude, hold my quantum beverage and watch this." The universe braced itself. Humanity was just getting started. "You've got to be kidding me," Zixtal muttered, watching the holographic feed from their cloaked observation post above Silicon Valley. They actually did it. They really added rockets to a quantum surfboard. "Not just rockets," Mira chimed in, her crystalline structure practically vibrating with excitement. "Look at the auxiliary systems. They've somehow merged classical and quantum propulsion using... Is that a modified coffee maker?" "French press," Talara confirmed, her tentacles flying over the sensor controls. Apparently someone noticed that the pressure dynamics of coffee brewing had interesting implications for quantum field manipulation. They wrote the initial equations on a napkin during their coffee break. The three observers had returned to Earth just in time to witness humanity's latest bout of impossible innovation. The approaching space-time anomaly, rather than causing panic, had sparked what humans called a tech boom, complete with startup companies, venture capital, and something deeply confusing called tech bros. "Their stock market is going crazy," Mira noted, pulling up financial data streams. "Apparently you can now invest in companies specializing in quantum leisure activities and extreme space-time sports." "Speaking of which," Talara interjected, "you need to see this footage from their test run." The holographic display shifted to show a human testing facility in the Nevada desert. A figure stood atop what looked like a surfboard crossed with a particle accelerator, with unexplainable bits of both steampunk and cyberpunk aesthetics somehow worked into the design. "Is that a top hat?" Zixtal's mandibles clicked in confusion. "They're calling it quantum formalware," Talara explained. "Apparently, if you're going to ride a wave of collapsed probability through a space-time anomaly, you should do it with style." The test footage played on, showing the quantum surfboard activating. The air around it began to shimmer with possibilities, reality itself seeming to ripple like water. The rider, whose top hat somehow stayed perfectly in place, gave a thumbs up to the camera before hitting what appeared to be an oversized power button, labeled Cowabunga. What happened next defied several laws of physics and at least two fundamental theorems of quantum mechanics. "They're not supposed to be able to do that," Zixtal whispered, antennae twitching spasmodically. That's not how anything works." "Tell that to the humans," Mira replied, her structure tinging with amusement. "Look at their sensor readings. They're not just surfing probability waves, they're doing tricks." Indeed, the test pilot was now executing what appeared to be a kickflip through a localized time dilation, followed by something they were calling a quantum ollie. "The council needs to see this," Talara began, but was interrupted by an urgent alert from their ship's sensors. "The anomaly," Zixtal announced, pulling up the data. "It's accelerating. We have maybe 3 Earth days before it reaches this solar system." They all watched as the alert was picked up by Earth's detection systems. The response was uniquely human. "Are they—" Mira's structure flickered in disbelief. "Organizing a competition?" "First Annual Quantum Surf Pro," Talara read from the rapidly spreading social media announcements. "Face the void, catch the ultimate wave, save the world. Energy drinks sponsored by Red Bull." "They're turning a potential extinction event into a sporting event," Zixtal said flatly. "With sponsors. Don't forget the live stream," Mira added. "They're setting up something called Twitch integration for viewer engagement." Before they could process this development, their sensors picked up another anomaly, this one originating from Earth itself, specifically from a garage in New Jersey, where someone had apparently decided that quantum surfing wasn't extreme enough and was working on what they called a probability skateboard. "Oh no," all 3 observers said simultaneously. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity, as humanity mobilized in a way that somehow combined extreme sports, cutting-edge physics, social media influencers, and an impromptu music festival. The quantum surfing competition had evolved into a full-blown event, complete with merchandise, food trucks, and a halftime show. They do realize this isn't a game, right? Zixtal asked, watching as humans set up what appeared to be viewing stands at a safe distance from the anticipated anomaly interaction point. I don't think they care, Talara replied, her tentacles gesturing at the growing crowd. Look at this. They've got theoretical physicists doing play-by-play commentary alongside extreme sports announcers. Someone's selling t-shirts that say, "I survived the quantum apocalypse and all I got was this lousy shift in fundamental reality." The shirts are quantum entangled, Mira noted with something like admiration. They change designs based on probability fluctuations. That's actually quite clever. As the space-time anomaly approached, the festival atmosphere only intensified. Food trucks were doing brisk business in things like Schrodinger's tacos, which might or might not contain meat until observed, and quantum foam lattes, which somehow existed in multiple states simultaneously. The competition itself was set to begin in less than 12 hours. Competitors from around the world had arrived, each with their own take on quantum surfing technology. The Japanese team had built something that looked like a cross between a traditional surfboard and a mecha suit. The Brazilian team had somehow incorporated actual electromagnetic field manipulation into their samba dance moves. The Finnish team's design appeared to run on both quantum entanglement and pure spite. Should we stop them? Zixtal asked uncertainly. Could we? Talara replied. They watched as a team of graduates from MIT rolled out what they called a quantum half-pipe, a structure that seemed to bend reality around it in ways that made observers' brains hurt. I don't think we could if we tried, Mira said. Besides, their calculations actually check out. Somehow. I'm not entirely sure how they derived that equation, but according to our systems, it works. It's written in crayon, Zixtal pointed out. Yes, but it's quantum crayon, Talara replied. Before they could debate the mathematical validity of gnarliness as a quantum property, the sky began to darken. The anomaly was approaching, right on schedule. But instead of panic, the crowd cheered. Someone had started playing something called Thunderstruck over massive speakers, and the competitors were lining up, quantum boards at the ready. This is either going to be the most impressive thing we've ever seen, Mira observed, or the most spectacular failure in the history of the galaxy. Knowing humans, Talara replied, her tentacles weaving complex patterns of excitement. It'll probably be both. The first waves of distorted space-time began to roll across the Nevada desert. The competitors mounted their boards, each one's quantum field harmonizing in different colors. The crowd went wild. Someone in the back started a wave, both metaphorical and quantum. And as reality itself began to buckle under the strain of the approaching anomaly, a voice came over the loudspeakers. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all quantum states, welcome to the first and possibly last Quantum Surf Pro Championship. Remember, folks, if we survive this, the after-party is at Area 51. The universe held its breath. Humanity grabbed its quantum surfboard and winked. The show was about to begin. The moment the first quantum surfer hit the waves of distorted space-time, three things happened simultaneously. 1. Every scientific instrument within a 100-mile radius went haywire. 2. Einstein, somewhere in the afterlife, presumably facepalmed. 3. Reality itself seemed to throw up its hands and say, "Fine, whatever." Are they doing this to music? Zixtal asked incredulously, watching as the first team, the Australians, naturally, caught what they were calling a sick probability curl. Multiple playlists, Talara confirmed, her tentacles tangled in knots trying to track all the variables. Each team has their own soundtrack. The Australians are using AC/DC, the Japanese team has synchronized their quantum harmonics to J-pop, and I think the Finnish team is using heavy metal to actually alter the fabric of reality through pure bass. Look at the Brazilian team. Mira's crystalline structure practically sparkled with excitement. They've somehow turned quantum entanglement into a dance move. They're sambaing through parallel universes. The competition had quickly evolved beyond anything resembling normal physics or traditional sports. The Australian team was currently surfing a wave of collapsed probability, their boards leaving trails of alternative timelines in their wake. Their technique seemed to involve treating quantum uncertainty like shark-infested waters, with a mix of respect and casual defiance. The Japanese team's mecha boards had unfolded into something that looked like a cross between a Gundam suit and a wave runner, piloted by scientists who had apparently decided that if they were going to break physics, they might as well look awesome doing it. The Finnish team is... Wait, what are they doing? Zixtal's antennae twisted in confusion. According to their telemetry, Talara reported, they're using something called sisu to punch through probability barriers. They've somehow weaponized their national concept of determined resilience. Can they do that? Mira asked. They already did, Talara replied, showing readings that made absolutely no sense in any known scientific framework. And I think they're drinking coffee while doing it. The anomaly, seemingly confused by humanity's response to its reality-threatening presence, had begun to exhibit strange behaviors of its own. Instead of simply destroying everything, it was interacting with the quantum surfers in ways that suggested it was either playing along or had simply given up trying to maintain universal constants in the face of human audacity. The MIT team is up, someone announced over the speakers, and they've brought their quantum half-pipe. What followed defied description in any known language. The team, led by a graduate student who had apparently written their thesis on radical applications of non-linear reality manipulation, proceeded to perform what they called a 720 quantum kickflip through yesterday. Did they just... Zixtal began. Skateboard through time, yes, Mira confirmed. And I think they just high-fived themselves from an alternate dimension. The scoring system for this competition must be interesting, Talara mused, watching as the Russian team attempted something they called a quantum ballet that involved dancing through multiple probability states simultaneously. They're using an AI trained on both Olympic scoring systems and quantum mechanics, Mira explained. Though I think it's having an existential crisis trying to judge the Finnish team's performance. It keeps muttering something about undefined variables and the audacity. The competition continued, each team bringing their own unique approach to surfing the apocalypse. The German team had engineered their boards with typical precision, incorporating something they called quantum efficiency that somehow made their runs through collapsed spacetime incredibly fuel-efficient. The Italian team had somehow made their quantum manipulation look stylish. Their boards designed by Gucci's newly established Quantum Couture division. But it was the wildcard entry that really caught everyone's attention. Is that a teenage girl from New Zealand? Zixtal asked, mandibles clicking rapidly. With a quantum board she built in her garage using parts from a microwave and her mom's old yoga mat, Talara confirmed. According to her TikTok, she got the idea while making a grilled cheese sandwich during a physics lecture. They watched as the girl, wearing a helmet covered in holographic stickers and rainbow quantum sensors, dropped into a wave of pure probability. What followed was either the most reckless or most brilliant display of quantum surfing yet seen. She's not following any of the established theories, Mira noted with something like awe. She's just vibing with the quantum field. And it's working, Talara added. Look at these readings. She's not just surfing the anomaly, she's harmonizing with it. The teenager, apparently operating on what she called quantum intuition, was doing things with reality that made senior physicists in the crowd either weep or reach for their notebooks. She carved through probability waves like they were ocean swells, occasionally stopping to do what appeared to be TikTok dances through multiple dimensions. The anomaly, faced with this unprecedented approach to its reality-ending properties, seemed to undergo a change. The threatening tiers in spacetime began to shift, responding to the quantum surfer's manipulation like an ocean responding to experienced sailors. Are they taming it? Zixtal asked in disbelief. Not exactly, Mira replied, her crystalline structure pulsing with rapid calculations. They're more teaching it to dance. Indeed, what had started as a competition to survive an apocalyptic event had somehow turned into something between a physics experiment, an extreme sports exhibition, and a universe-scale dance party. The quantum surfers had found ways to not just ride the waves of distorted reality, but to shape them, guide them, and occasionally do sick tricks off them. The New Zealand teenager, having completed a series of moves that simultaneously violated 3 laws of physics and created 2 new ones, stuck her landing back in baseline reality and immediately pulled out her phone to post about it. Just quantum surfed through an apocalypse, lol. # quantum vibes, surfing the void, # physics but make it rad. Talara read from the rapidly viral post. The judge's AI, having apparently given up on traditional scoring methods, simply displayed +2 plied on the scoreboard. As the competition reached its climax, something unexpected began to happen. The anomaly, subjected to humanity's unique blend of scientific innovation, reckless courage, and inexplicable style, started to stabilize. Not in the way anyone had predicted, but in a way that somehow made sense in hindsight. They didn't just survive it, Zixtal realized, watching as the last quantum surfer landed a probability pipeline while taking a selfie. They turned it into a permanent quantum sports facility. Look at these readings. Talara's tentacles waved excitedly. The anomaly has been transformed into a stable quantum recreation zone. They've literally turned a universe-ending phenomenon into an extreme sports venue. With a gift shop, Mira added, noting the rapidly assembling retail facilities at the site's edge. They're already selling I Surfed the Apocalypse merchandise, in multiple quantum states simultaneously. As the sun set over what was now being called Quantum Point Break National Park, the observers watched humanity celebrate their latest victory over the impossible. The afterparty was already starting, with quantum-enhanced DJ sets and food trucks serving dishes that existed in multiple flavor states until observed. Should we update the council? Talara asked. And tell them what? Zixtal replied. That humans turned the end of the universe into a sporting event with corporate sponsorship and merchandise? Don't forget the social media coverage, Mira chimed in. The hashtag #QuantumSurfPro is trending across multiple dimensions. They watched as the teenage quantum surfing champion from New Zealand was interviewed, her quantum board tucked under one arm while she explained her technique. Oh, you just gotta feel the vibes of the universe and go with the flow. Also, I found out you can use quantum entanglement to order pizza across parallel dimensions, which is pretty cool. The universe, having apparently decided that resistance was futile, seemed to settle into its new role as humanity's most extreme sports venue. And somewhere in a garage, someone was already working on quantum roller skates. The observer's ship picked up one final transmission as they prepared their report. Dude, what if we tried this with skydiving? The universe sighed. Humanity grinned. The quantum revolution was just getting started.